So here's the thing. My Black Sabbath fandom makes other Black Sabbath fans a little mad. Like, it does, because, like, people really go crazy over Masters of Reality, and that album's fantastic. I mean, I'm never going to tell you it's not a great album. I think, honestly, my favorite, I'm not going to tell you it's their best, but I think my personal favorite Black Sabbath album was Volume 4, and that always makes every Sabbath fan kind of turn their head like, what, bro, what? But, like, I love this song right here. And this is, like, this could not be any further away from a hit. Like, Supernaut, like, I have just always loved this song so much. I hope that button bar sounds as good as it's supposed to, otherwise this won't sound that good on button. But I mean, I like when you can hear their blues in them a lot. And I feel like you get it's dripping in this. And Ozzy's vocal in this is so good. Yeah, man, they were... It's like if a weed rolling tray had a sound, it's like Black Sabbath is that sound, for sure. Yeah, man, they're all right. They're all right. I'm glad they're going to do this. And now Sharon says, look, he can't walk. He can't walk. But the voice sounds better than ever. It's like, okay, so, like, we've heard this lie before. This is the sharpest version of one we've ever had. My name's Maury Joe Scarborough. This is the best version of him we've ever had. Dopes, right? This is not the best vocal range Ozzy has ever had. This is not the best his voice has ever. I mean, come on. This guy has been famous. That song I just played you, Supernova. That album came out 4 years before I was even born, dude. Like, before I was even born. This man has been famous my entire life, like mega famous my entire life. There is no way he is as good now as he once was at this thing. It's vocal cords. You don't have to lie to me about it. It's cool enough you're doing it. And you're going to have everybody up there coming up there singing half the songs with them to prop them up through it. We all know what we're getting here, Sharon. Give us what we're getting, but you don't. You don't gotta lie. But it's like, I don't know. And I get why bands do it, I suppose. You ever notice that? Every time a band's got an album coming out, it's the best one they ever put out, right? No one's ever going to be like, yeah, dude, really, we hit our stride on the third one, and we just haven't been able to find the magic thing.
The Stansberry Show. Well, I'm not very good, but I play loud. On Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the program. Pulled out Sweet Leaf there as we were talking about Ozzy getting back together with Black Sabbath. One final show here. Now, people will eye roll that, right? But, like, the guy's old, man. And he has mobility issues. Like, Sharon full-on admitted it, apparently, in 2 different interviews. Like, yeah, like, he can barely walk. Voice sounds great. Now, I had once upon a time said, I remember when this was back a couple of years ago, when it had first started to come out that he was dealing with Parkinson's and the like. And I was like, well, you know, he had expressed an interest in wanting to play. You know, there were some back surgeries, I remember, if memory serves right. And I remember saying, I was like, look, man, there's a handful of people who can really pull this off pretty well, and I think Ozzy's one of them. That if you just give me the old stage set from, like, the Randy Rhoads tour, and he comes out from underneath the stage, he sits on the throne, you give me the fog and all of that, and you give me the voice, I'm in. I'm in. Actually, the more he moves around, I think the less I'm going to like it, because that's what's going to make it noticeable, where it's like, ugh. You know what I mean? Where it's like, he's up there now, you know? Now, Adam had been listening, thanks again to him, and he said, look, dude, he's like, I saw Korn a few years ago, and Jonathan Davis sat in a throne. Whole show. Apparently, that was a COVID issue. He said, I just saw David Gilmour 3 times. He didn't move from the center of the stage except to change guitars. It's about the music and the emotion that it brings when you hear it. Yes and no. Yes and no. I love Rush now. I didn't necessarily, as like a teenager, like, grow up like a huge Rush fan. I always respected them, thought they were pretty good. Wasn't necessarily my favorite thing. But when I first started working at MMS back, there's a guy who still works for this company. He works in New York now. His name's Jesse. Could not be a better guy. And Jesse's favorite band ever is Rush. And so he got some tickets. He's like, yo, man, come to this with me. All right. And those dudes, you don't move at all. Just, dude, right there. Just stand right there and just, will you please never stop playing those instruments, right? It's like, they're like that. I've seen Pink Floyd, as Adam brings us, David Gilmour. I got lucky enough for that. And I've seen some Gilmours. You're not necessarily wrong. I think it's... Floyd at least brought more than enough theatric without them having to do it themselves, right? So, like, I want to be careful with that, is because I feel like Floyd's actually skated on that quite a bit for, when my favorite band got attacked for it all of the time. But okay, again, David Gilmour, if he did not move ever and he just played the solo from Comfortably Numb over and over and over again, I would literally buy a ticket to just that. So, okay, I'll give you that. The Jonathan Davis one, man, like, do I believe that guy's talented enough at what he does to have been able to pull that off in the moment? Sure. Would I rather have Jonathan Davis moving around animated as part of that show? Yes. It's just kind of part of the shtick. I need that. Dave Grohl, too, I brought him up, right? Because he sat in the thing, and he did it. He pulled that show off. He's fine. The voice sounded great, this and that. But he is an animated guy. And his hair flowing in the thing and chewing the gum when he's supposed to be singing and the whole thing. And, like, it works. It's performance. And I got to be honest with you, dude, it's going to be hard to convince a Kiss fan that standing still is the best thing to do. Like, that's going to be the hard. I mean, that was their whole thing. You know what I mean? Nah, watch this, bro. Front man that I want to move a little bit. Ozzy is better off. He's David Draymond. Like, David Draymond should move less. Like, that's when it's disturbed. It's like, bro, just stand there at the thing looking gothic or whatever the hell your thing is, whatever cosplay you're out there with, you know what I mean? And do that. But, like, when you start Chippendales, and that's when it gets weird. And, like, Ozzy kind of has that, too, like, because he just would always take the two arms in unison and kind of go. It's weird. Just stand there looking haunted. And it works better for Ozzy. And, like, let your guitar players headbang or whatever the hell, and then that's fine. When he was young, he could run back and forth on the stage, and you could get into that. But, we haven't seen young. It's been forever. First of all, I'm not even sure I ever really saw it. Like I said, that guy, most of Sabbath's stuff was, Volume 4 came out in 72 for crying out loud. This dude is old, man. Like, this guy is old. This is what he said about Back to the Beginning. That's why we're talking about it, by the way. What they're doing, Sabbath is getting together with, like, Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, Hailstorm, Alice in Chains, a bunch of people. And they're playing Birmingham Saturday, July 5th there. And Fred Durst is apparently allowed into this. I don't know why. But you can get tickets on the 14th. Ticketmaster. CO UK apparently is where you can get those. I doubt most of you are going to go to that. But here's what Ozzy said. Quote, "It's my time to go back to the beginning. Time for me to go back to the place where I was born. How blessed am I to do it with the help of people who I love. It is the true home of metal, Birmingham. Birmingham forever." Well, they are considered to be the godfathers of metal. There's no denying that. If you even want to go with Jack Black, do people still like him enough? Or is that thing? But, the Pick of Destiny and, the Devils or whatever. And, Iommi and the Court and all of that. And that's always been the thing with Ozzy and me is the guitar players. Like, that guy, I don't know if I would imagine some of it's blind luck, some of it is having an ear and knowing. But, like, you get Iommi, Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee, Zakk Wylde. I think I'm missing one. But, like, when Jakey Lee and Zakk Wylde you're like, oh, yeah, those two. It's like, dude, that's pretty good, right? Like, that's pretty good. I've said forever that had that plane not gone down, I don't know if I'm right about this, but had that plane not gone down, had Randy Rhoads not died, I'm not sure we're walking out of the 1980s with the universal view that Eddie Van Halen is the king of guitar of that day. I'm not sure that people forget, dude, Randy died early in that decade, man. Early. And he and Oz were on an absolute burner, bro. Burner. So, like, I don't know, man. that conversation could have got tricky, right? All of a sudden, here, play it out. All of a sudden, Ozzy and Randy drop another album that gives you at least, like, another, like, Goodbye to Romance, or at least something at that level. And now, all of a sudden, David Lee Roth getting a little froggy, right? There go David, like, I'm pretty sure I could do this without Ed. That's how stupid I am, right? And, like, that thing happens, and Randy's still alive? I don't know, man. We're talking about some other stuff. I really do think that could have ended differently. I don't know for sure, but it could have ended differently. Ozzy, man, it's going to be sad when he dies. You know? I mean, most of it's been Sharon, and nobody wants to admit it because, you know, she comes off as the mean lady. But, like, you know, without her, we don't have any of this. Like, none of it happens. Nothing post-Sabbath happens without her. I mean, absolutely none of it. So that means no Ozfest. And, I mean, look how many times that's been copied. I mean, we're going to do another one, May? Down there in Columbus, right? I mean, like, I mean, yes, Woodstock, and you could talk about Lollapalooza, and yes, those are both true. Ozzy was Sharon created a version of that based around, she was smart enough to know you could base it around the biggest figure in the movement. Like, that's just it. Like, that's the one thing Metallica doesn't have, right? Is, like, their own festival. Like, they know, like, why would we do our own? Everybody needs us to sell theirs out. Yeah, I guess maybe that's true. I guess that's true. But, like, Ozfest, that's the whole nother thing about Ozzy. It's like, I love the Sabbath stuff. I love the solo record stuff. I can't get enough of it. So he gave me all of that. And beyond that, through Ozfest, I saw so many. I mean, it wouldn't even be worth listing. It's probably, I saw less bands not through that. I was exposed to more great live shows through Ozfest than maybe any other touring package I've ever seen.
The Stansberry Show.
You're still going to put your foot in your mouth?
On Rock 106.9.
A time traveler tells us that this will be a very tough year. We'll get into that next hour. And in case he's right, we'll give you $1,000 to get out ahead of it. We'll do that in the 9 o'clock hour. Rock the Bank. You know, I wasn't really intending to get to this place through the Ozzy Osbourne conversation, but Black Sabbath is going to reunite one show, one final one. And they're going to play Birmingham, where it all started. Back to the beginning is what they're calling it. And they pulled out all the heavy hitters. I mean, Metallica's going to be part of this, Slayer, a bunch of others too. And, you know, we were talking about that a little bit. And, you know, Ozzy is, you know, they say he can barely walk, but he still sounds great. And, you know, the voice thing has always been a little interesting because you can go back to the reality show and he was clearly putting it on a little bit. You know, his inability to speak. And there was a lot, we know now, there was plenty of smoke and mirrors in that first run of that show. Which, again, they kind of spawned a lot of that. I mean, Sharon, dude, like, you know, people dislike that lady. And I understand why. I get it. If she does not go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as her own entity, I honestly think that's a mistake. She has given, everything she's given the rock world, nobody wants to give up. And here's the reason. She ripped off a lot of musicians who helped make Ozzy great, and she did. She absolutely did. She is a shrewd, but that's just it. That's why she's so good at business. Like, that's what got you Ozfest and the shows and everything. And like that, it's because she is that good at business. But because she's that good at business, she knew how to screw over musicians. And so a lot of people in the scene don't want to give her the credit that she kind of deserves because, like, she also deserves some mudslinging around, right? She does. She kind of, I mean, dude, if you're Bob Daisley, I mean, jeez, I mean, dude, she just straight ripped Bob straight off. That guy wrote 2 great records. And she was like, and they pretend he doesn't exist. Like, that's, and so if you're him, you got a legit bitch there, right? But I do believe Sharon is worthy of going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as her own entity. But we got to talking about, like, whether or not this is going to be worth seeing because, you know, Ozzy doesn't move around. And I'm like, well, you know, his movement wasn't when he was great. I actually